This is the AEW Dynamite February 5, 2025 full show results video which takes place at Gateway Center Arena in Atlanta. Renee Paquette interviews Switchblade Jay White backstage and he says his relationship with Adam Copeland is being built in real time and they don't have history together. He does have history with FTR and they haven't always seen eye to eye, but opposite Death Riders they have a common foe and that needs to be enough. Death Riders roll up, but they don't realize that Copeland and FTR are right behind them and we get a brawl in the loading bay. Moxley taking White along, Wheeler has Pac and they spill out into the arena and onto the stage. Cash bounces the bastard off of the entrance tunnel. Everybody else is down here now, Copeland punching Claudio Castagnoli through the crowd. Jay gets John set up in the ring but Pac makes the save, rolling Soulbutt on Harwood, but Wheeler slides in and the bastard eats Big Rig. Cash off the ropes, hits Swiss Death. Moxley and Claudio putting boots to Switchblade, telling him to stay down. Copeland's in the ring and Castagnoli saves Moxley and takes the spear for him. Adam gets on the mic and points out the crowd is chanting for him and asks Moxley for his answer, and John tells him he deserves nothing and he'll get nothing. The answer is no. White calls him out with a different offer. He wants to make Moxley breathe with the Switchblade as he drowns in a pool of his own blood. Moxley and Castagnoli versus White and Copeland. No rules, anything goes. Brisbane Brawl at Grand Slam. Don Callis comes out to introduce Will Ospreay's mystery opponent as a man who he's traveled up and down the roads with and called brother, Mark Davis. Then we saw a match between Mark Davis versus Will Ospreay, and the result of this match was Will Ospreay defeated Mark Davis by pinfall with Hidden Blade. Post-match, Will gets on the mic and he says it's like a party in here, but Don Callis is a little bit of a party pooper. He's got his teammate for Australia in the back and then comes Kenny Omega, sending Callis scurrying away like the proverbial scalded dog. He gets on the mic and says, man to man, he has no clue what Don has on Davis, even though it might seem hopeless, help is there and there are people here you can trust. 1 week from now he makes his in-ring return for AEW in Brisbane, Australia, but he had the itch to come here and say hello tonight. Konosuke Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher come out. Omega tells them they can do this here and now, but Don holds them back. If not, he suggests they pack a bag, train, and get themselves ready for next week. Back from the commercial, the Hurt Syndicate make their entrance and get on the mic, and MVP says this is an official announcement and demands everyone get on their feet in respect for Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley, your new AEW World Tag Team Champions. He puts everyone else on notice: if you are an AEW athlete and a champion, get ready, because eventually they will see you, hurt you, and take your title. But until that time, they're open for business, and if you'd like an opportunity to challenge for the tag team titles. Ominous music plays, it's the Ass Boys returns. They ask to come into the ring and talk business, and MVP says they don't look like businessmen but they're standing like businessmen so they can come on in the ring and chat. The Ass Boys make the case for taking their titles back, and Porter says he respects their moxie and courage and their dad, without whom his two monsters would have already choked them out. MVP makes the match official for next week, the Hurt Syndicate against a couple of Ass Boys. They leave and the Ass Boys are upset and they've got 2 words for them. Renee Paquette is backstage looking to interview Mercedes Moné, and a mystery arm with a Mercedes Moné puppet sticks itself into frame with the momentous announcement that Harley Cameron will be live in concert in Houston. Harley slides into frame as the owner of the mystery arm and thanks Mercedes for the wonderful idea. They go back and forth until the real Mercedes comes out of her room. Mercedes asks if Harley is stupid or dumb, and Renee asks her to talk about her prospective opponents for Grand Slam. Mercedes says she remembers her first win and her first title win and her second title win and her third and her fourth and so on. She calls Harley a loser and rips the puppet off her hand and throws it on the ground before telling her to stay the hell out of her locker room. Back from the commercial, Renee Paquette interviews Hangman Adam Page and he says Christopher Daniels overstepped when he accepted the Texas Death Match and he does not regret what he did to Daniels and Platinum Max Caster roll up and says he's been waiting his turn for a while now, and tells Page what he did to Daniels was great and he'd love if he'd put Anthony Bowens or Billy Gunn in the hospital. Hangman says that he'd love that, but Bowens and Gunn aren't here, so why doesn't he just do it to Caster? Caster begs off and leaves for his car and Page helpfully accompanies him. The next match happened between Hounds of Hell, Brody King and Buddy Matthews, versus Konosuke Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher, and the result of this match was Konosuke Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher won the match by pinfall with an assisted brainbuster on Brody King. Samoa Joe and Hook are walking backstage. Hook wants to know what his deal is. Joe says when people wrap steel around his skull he gets emotional and says he said it himself, you gotta keep a level head. They bust into a locker room and discover Nick Wayne and Kip Sabian and no Christian Cage. Samoa says they could leave and come back later, or they could send a message, and then beat Sabian and Wayne down, with Christian peeking through the door at one point. They leave and Cage and Mother Wayne go and check on Nick and Kip and shove the cameras away. Maxwell Jacob Friedman makes his entrance and gets on the mic, and he calls Jeff Jarrett geriatric and says he just had to get out of his way, but he couldn't do that, so he had to teach him a lesson. That lesson is as follows: the E in AEW stands for elite, not elderly, and he goes to finish up with "Nobody's on the level of the devil" when Max Caster runs into the ring and hides behind MJF waiting for Hangman Adam Page. Hangman makes his entrance and gets in Friedman's face, but Caster has made good his escape. MJF is baffled. This was his time, and before he was so rudely interrupted by a talentless, worthless hack, Ain't Nobody, distortion crackles over the arena PA. Then comes the natural Dustin Rhodes, and he gets in Max's face and tells him to keep Owen Hart's name out of his mouth or he'll kick his teeth in. Stop talking about people's wives, about their past issues with drugs and alcohol. He's 16 years sober and he looked the devil in his eyes and kicked his face in. He crawled out of hell and Max isn't the devil, he just chooses to go to dark places, and there's a reason he's still here at 55 years old hanging with everybody on this roster. It's because he's a survivor, the last of his kind, and he's survived everything, he's been through it all. MJF calls for a timeout and asks for everybody to give it up for Dustin Rhodes. But the part where he said he's better than Max was interesting, and he imagined all those years of being a worthless drug addict turned his brain into Swiss cheese. He says Dustin was the man who took 37 long, hard, arduous years just to get out from underneath his daddy's shadow. Max cackles and says he struck a nerve when Dustin hardens his face, and whoop his ass chants go up. He says the sad part about the whole thing is that after that hard work and sacrifice, now he lives in the shadow of his little baby bro, and Rhodes decks him with a right hand and lights him up with body blows as security and road agents comes to break it up. Jerry Lynn pulls them apart. Christopher Daniels is here too. Security manages to get them apart, but MJF breaks away and rushes into the ring to kick Dustin low, and he confronts Daniels on his way out and says Hangman did a number on him. The next match happened between Queen Aminata versus Toni Storm, and Mariah May is on commentary for this one. Toni is wrestling this match as Mariah May, so that's fun, and the real Mariah is so apoplectic she cannot speak, and the result of this match was Toni Storm defeated Queen Aminata by pinfall with Mayday. Post-match, Toni is interviewed and she stays in character as Mariah, and the real glamour jumps up on the apron with her lil vinyl booty shorts and thigh boots before deciding she'd rather storm off with her title, reassuring herself that she's Mariah May. Learning Tree offer up their New York Minute from the base of the ramp tonight, and Chris Jericho says nobody wants Bandito in AEW and offers Brian Keith $200,000 if he can do to Bandito what Big Bill did to Powerhouse Will Hobbs. Bill calls Powerhouse out and Will Hobbs is here, and they brawl with the New York Minute Chirin still up on screen, and the Outrunners arrive to even the odds. Bill and will have a little contest of who can slam a security guard more dramatically before climbing into the ring with each other. Big Bill takes Powerhouse to the floor, but Hobbs takes him over the announce desk to brawl on the floor. Then security is escorting the Learning Tree out of the building. In the main event of the show, we saw a match between Ricochet versus Shane Swerve Strickland, and the result of this match was Ricochet defeated Swerve Strickland by pinfall with spear gun. Post-match, Ricochet steals Swerve's fancy embassy robe and walks out with it, and the show goes off the air. How much you would rate this week's AEW Dynamite show? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.